thanks very much for the invite, Todd. I am very appreciative that you enjoyed Sugar and Spice and that it stuck with you. That's what writers try to do, try to be memorable and try to tell a story that sticks with readers long after they're done. I'm going to read you an excerpt now. This is a story about a little girl who takes drastic measures in order to try to save her parents' marriage and make them happy again because they've had a devastating event that's happened to them. Why do you have to go on dates? People go on dates before they get married, not after, Samantha said to her mother as she watched her put on lipstick. Because it's good for Daddy and me. It helps keep our relationship healthy, her mother replied, sounding as if she was reading aloud from a book, one in which she wasn't particularly interested. Samantha could tell she was making an effort, which was how her mother referred to it when she did things she didn't really want to do, such as going to visit Daddy's mother, Grandma Lisa, or agreeing to run the Wednesday night Bible study group at church. They no longer went to church. Samantha's daddy had tried to convince her mommy to go, saying it might make her feel better, but she shouted that it would not make her feel better and had underlined that point by smashing her coffee cup down on the kitchen counter, shattering it and frightening Samantha so that she burst into tears. It's all right, honey. Mommy's just upset, her father told her and gave her a hug. Samantha leaned into him and inhaled his daddy's smell of spicy cologne and warm skin and wished that her mommy would stop shouting. She hated it when her mommy was angry like this. It was as if she had turned into another person, one who might bite or scratch. They'd all ask me, "How are you doing?" Her mommy's voice had taken on a sweetie sweet sing-song tone. Well, how the living blue fuck do those sanctimonious church bitches think I'm doing? How would they be doing if it happened to them? Samantha's daddy didn't answer. He told Samantha to go put on her jacket, and they'd go in the backyard and kick the soccer ball around. There was a soccer net back there with a frame of white PVC pipes that Arden, Samantha's sister, used for practice when she was on the soccer team at day camp last summer. The backyard's ankle-deep in leaves. Do you want me to go to the park and play soccer there? I can drive you, Samantha's mommy said. Her voice sounded mean. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, Samantha thought desperately. It can't be like this forever, can it? Her father seemed to shrivel up the way he always did when his wife talked about driving him somewhere. No, I'd better rake the leaves, he said, and went out the sliding glass door. Samantha followed him, and together they raked leaves, her daddy using the big rake and Samantha using her little one, until it got too dark to see. When they went back inside, her mommy had gone to bed, although it wasn't even Samantha's bedtime yet, and she hadn't made them anything for dinner. That's when Samantha realized she had to do something to make her parents happy again. Yes, it's about a child baking something, creating what she tells her babysitter is going to be a cake as a surprise for her parents. And it is a type of cake, but Samantha uses her own recipe, having recalled the old nursery rhyme about sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. So she's trying desperately to achieve something that she hopes will restore her family to the way it was prior to a disastrous event that just shattered all three of them. That's a good question. I've thought about that a few times, and I'm not really sure. At one point, my husband and I had traveled up to a granite, I don't know what you call it. I guess it would be like a granite mine. It was up in Vermont, and they made a lot of headstones for cemeteries, a lot of jars in which to put cremains. It's a very well-known place. It's called Rock of Ages, and a lot of monuments. If you go and look on the back of them, you can see that it was made by Rock of Ages granite. This is Vermont granite. It's supposed to be the finest there is. And we saw a lot of these jars in which you place cremains. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that's disturbing to have somebody's dead relative's ashes displayed in your home. I guess some people like to do that. I guess it makes them feel better to know that the loved one is still with them. But I thought about that at the time, and I thought that they had some that were made especially for children, which I thought was really sad and really disturbing. You could see there were some with, they were designed for children. Some of them were colored pink for a little girl or blue for boys, and they had like nursery rhyme pictures on it. And that really got to me, that someone would lose a young child, and want to have their ashes with them. So without giving the story away, that's part of the event that inspired it. Maybe a day or two, not that long. Not terribly long. The hardest part is getting an idea and working it out in my head, and then I sit down at the laptop and just write it out, change things around. And not terribly long. This one went fast. Yeah, that's tough. That's what I consider really short. There are people that write microfiction, where they write a sentence or two. That's real tough. I like to sprawl out a little bit and sort of draw out the story and kind of lead into it without just jumping right in. I think you have to keep up the tension and keep the reader reading. I think Shirley Jackson said that, especially. The whole point of writing is to keep the reader, keep them engaged and keep them wanting to know what happens next, and then what, and then what, and then what. And hopefully if you do it right, there should be a surprise at the end, or something that is satisfying to the reader. Not necessarily a happy ever after ending, but something that just ties it all up and explains what the story is trying to do. Yeah, first find out what the paying markets are. If you can sign on to Duotope or any of the guides that show you who's paying or not. The Horror Tree, if you write horror or speculative fiction, you can go there. They've got a website they publish every Friday, which shows you which markets are open, what guidelines they're looking for in terms of who they're open to. Some of them are designed specifically for people who, it's kind of hard to explain. Some of them are only open to a certain type of person. Lately, they try to appeal to people who identify as women, people who might have had certain experiences in life, but they'll tell you what they want. Some of them are open only to very young people. So you read the guidelines and you send your submission in, and you make sure it follows the guidelines, because that's the best way of getting rejected, is to not put it into Shun manuscript format if that's what they want. And you can look up Shun online for any new writers, and they'll tell you how to do that. Follow the guidelines. Make sure that that you should, be submitting to that publication, and do your best. Submit to lots of places, and eventually you'll get accepted in one of them, and then keep going and keep going and keep going until you're in one of the higher paying brackets, and then you can join horror writers or fantasy and science fiction writers, international thriller writers, which I'm in right now because I'm writing thrillers. Just keep trying, keep writing, keep submitting, and you will get rejected. Just keep on going, and eventually you'll catch on. No, I wish I did. I started by being a slush reader for a number of markets, some of which have folded, some of which are still around. Bewildering Stories is still around. I read slush for them. If somebody wants to look them up online, they're a great way to get started. I don't recall the first paying market. I wish I knew you were going to ask me that. I could have looked it up. But that's an exciting event. It's exciting just to be published at all. But when you're actually paid for your writing, that's awesome. I've been in a couple anthologies lately. They pay well, and it's very exciting to have a hardcover book with your story in it, and to get a fairly decent check. It's a great, great feeling. Yesterday I made pad thai. It came out really well. I like that. I like anything sort of complicated with a lot of spices. I love spice. I love curry. I love anything that adds a lot of flavor to food. It's the best. So yeah, I like to put things together and have them come out well. I don't do a lot of baking. I don't make cakes, the pies and things. I should give that a try, but I just like to make something good. Yeah, I think it was Adele. Yeah, I think it was Adele. I go with cremation, definitely. Yeah, it just seems like, but it's an individual's choice. I understand in some religions they don't permit cremation. So it's totally up to your religious philosophy, your own desires, how you feel about it. Yeah, I think I'll be cremated. I had octopus about a year ago. That was pretty weird. I felt sort of guilty because I watched a documentary on TV called My Octopus Teacher about this guy who was into diving, and he encountered this octopus and hung out with it, got really friendly with it. It was a nice octopus, and I feel bad that I ate one. The poor thing. They're supposed to be really smart, as smart as a dog or a cat. So yeah, that would be the octopus. Although I did have one time a potted eel in England, which was really awful. So yeah, those are two terrible things. Shout out to anyone. I'll give a shout out to you, Todd, because you're great to interview me today. Just shout out to anybody who loves reading and loves books and short stories. And, we're the best. We appreciate good literature. We like to enjoy. So shout out to all my Facebook friends. Shout out to you. Shout out to the world. Hopefully 2021 will be better than 2020.